have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
And I'm all out of bubblegum!
Astro Radios is a horror, cult, exploitation film podcast by filmmakers, critics, musicians, journalists, and fans for the film obsessed. Here is your host, Derrick.
We've gotten through the witchcraft films, people. Now we can get back to Astro Radio Z as it should be. Shot on video horror movies, and I got one that I dug out of the bottom of a barrel of radioactive chemical nuclear warfare waste. This is the amazing Troma shot on video film, Redneck Zombies.
In the heartland of America live a very special kind of people. Friendly, decent, hard-working people. But what happens when these simple, down-to-earth folk accidentally drink a barrel of nuclear waste?
Well, whatever it is, it better taste good, because you splattered it all over the corn squeezins, you otter ass.
I'm sorry, Daddy.
Swilling toxic moonshine, they become flesh-eating, bloodthirsty kinfolk from hell. They become redneck zombies. Redneck zombies. Tobacco-chewing, gut-chomping creatures of the night. Redneck zombies. Monstrous radioactive freaks waiting to eat you for lunch. Alone and lost in the backwoods of Maryland, 7 city slickers will encounter a nightmare world of the hillbilly undead.
Do this, man!
Not since blood-sucking freaks has there been such controversial scenes of violence, dismemberment, and cannibalism.
Whoa, Ty, check it out.
It's a native! Oh, hello!
There's thrills, chills, and adventure, plus plenty of lip-smacking nourishment. We dare you to keep your eyes open during the last harrowing half hour. It makes Dawn of the Dead look like Mary Poppins. Redneck Zombies is another provocative anti-nuclear parable from the Troma team. Filmed in gorgeous entrail vision, it's for rock and roll horror freaks of all ages.
Oh, shit! Did you treat this weed? Sally!
For spilled guts, laughs, and suspense, it's Redneck Zombies. A splatter film classic so gruesome that half the Troma team staff checked themselves into Bellevue. Redneck Zombies, a down-home good time you'll never forget. Warning, repeated viewings of Redneck Zombies has been shown to cause insane laughter in laboratory animals.
So it's been a little while since we did one of these shot on video episodes, and I couldn't be more happy to come back after the last episode where 3 hours of absolute fucking torture, where we had to talk about Witchcraft 14 through 16, to come back to this episode, which we talk about one of my all-time favorite shot on video horror films, Redneck Zombies. This is one that you guys on the Facebook group voted for. At first, it was The Burning Moon that was number one, and then ultimately Redneck Zombies in the voting took over completely, but I had already scheduled this episode out, so you got it second. I'm sorry. But that's just how it worked out. And with me tonight, I have Amanda.
Hello.
I have Mark, who's super excited about this episode.
Indeed.
And last but not least, good friend of Mark's. If you listen to his podcast, The Spoiler Room, which you should go subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever the hell you get your podcast, go subscribe there. You will know the sultry tones of this man. He's a man I've referred to on past episodes of Astro Radio Z. It's our good friend Steve, but we call him Doc. Doc, how you doing tonight?
It's a pleasure to be here, sir. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Yay.
if you know what I mean.
Oh, okay. Can I put my pants back on now, sir?
So, what, you don't like that? You don't like masturbation sounds? Is that what you're saying? Seems how this is Doc's first episode of Astro Radio Z, and it's one of these shot on video episodes. Doc, would you like to tell us what's your history with shot on video horror films? Did you used to watch these back in the day?
This one is like the first one I remember seeing specifically for that. I don't have a big history at the time. I picked them up occasionally, often not knowing they were necessarily shot on video and just going, okay, I'm intrigued and going, oh, video. Oh, okay. We'll see how this works.
The whole bait and switch, right?
Sometimes. I've got Darkness. I know on DVD because they did a restored version of that. I think I've bought now Redneck Zombies like 3 times.
All of us have.
Tape, the first DVD. I got the 20th anniversary DVD with the CD of the soundtrack in it. So I don't have a vast history with them, which is why I find these episodes particularly interesting, because they're kind of like with Mark. I'm hearing about all these things that I'm intrigued, but I'm also being told I shouldn't watch it in full speed because it's not worth an hour and a half of my life. So
the ones we've been talking about, the majority of them, I believe you guys should check out.
Yeah, totally.
Well, except for Violent Shit 1. Definitely don't check that thing out.
Okay.
But Doc, I think you and I watched this the first time, didn't we?
I suspect we did. It feels like it was one of the ones in amongst Undertaker and his pals and Skeeter and
one of those late night films where you'd come over and we'd spend all night watching bad films.
I don't remember if you rented it or if I brought it over or what it was, but I remember it being I remember being in the pile and us just giggling at it. So
yeah.
Well, listeners, I want you to realize, and you can probably hear it a little bit in their banter, Doc and Mark the Movie Man have known each other for a very, very, very long time. Mark, how long exactly have you two known each other?
We met when he was a senior in high school.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's how I met Jim.
Yeah, junior or senior in high school, because a mutual friend of ours went to this high school that Doc went to. And he found, as geeks do, you end up finding each other just naturally. And so
in the pre-internet being everywhere days, you just kind of magnetically drew, wait a minute, you said a word I recognize. What's going on over here? and Jim went, you guys like the crappy movies. You should go talk about those together for a while. And that's what happened.
Yes. So it was like another group of people were talking, and then you didn't even really walk over. You just magnetically slid over into that group to join into that conversation.
I had a buddy in Jim's math class that I would pop into and say hey to before I went to my math class, and Jim sat like right behind him. So it was like I'd say hey something, and all of a sudden Jim's eyes would just kind of perk up, going, "Wait a minute, you like that too?" Yeah, why? I like that too.
We are now best friends. And then you did the Predator handshake.
Yes. I met Mark in email before I met Mark, if memory serves.
Oh my God.
Yep, there you go.
Mark, did you try being a badass in that email?
Early email we're talking about. This is like this email was a novelty.
Well, that reminds me of that scene in Welcome to the Dollhouse where the brother is receiving a written letter from his camp crush, from his summer camp crush, and she closes it, P.S. My parents are getting me email for my birthday. My address will be such and such a hope to see you, or hope something like, I hope you get email too.
Dude,
like that.
Not to turn this episode into recalling awkward exchanges and meeting stories, but I remember way back in the day, I went to a band camp. This is going to really expose me. My listeners are going to be like, totally like, oh, I've been listening to a fucking band dork all these years.
One time in band camp?
That's what I heard in my head, yeah.
But I remember getting a letter from a girl, a handwritten letter from a girl at band camp.
You were at band camp, or was this after band camp?
After band camp.
Whoa.
It was like a 4 or 5 page handwritten note. I guess you could. So I guess you could say we were pretty serious.
Yeah. You get a touch of the Derrick Carey, and
you don't want it out. You don't want it out, baby.
That stays with you.
It drives you to write 4-page long handwritten letters.
Was it famous perfume?
I don't remember.
She wrote a 4 or 5 page letter. Derrick probably wrote back a 4 or 5 sentence letter.
Yeah,
because that's how guys tend to write back.
Yes.
Unless we're writing a story that they're in which case it might be 5 pages.
Yeah, it says, "I like you, boobs."
I like you, boobs.
Love, Derrick.
Yeah. P.S. Your butt's okay too.
Yeah.
P.S. Your butt's okay.
I like your butt.
I like your butt. Oh my God. So how does this all tie into Redneck Zombies?
Because we watched it ages ago.
Yes.
When he would, come back into town and we would sit there overnight and just drink Mountain Dew and watch weird movies. And then at 7 a.m, start up Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then it takes on a whole new philosophical meaning.
When you're sleep deprived.
And kept up on Mountain Dew. Dude, all the broken clocks mean that time has no meaning here.
Twisted up on Mountain Dew.
Yeah, you've gone into an alternate plane of existence and dimension.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well.
You've entered the zoo zone, yes.
The Dew zone. Well, Redneck Zombies, when I said in the opener that this was one of my all-time favorite shot on video films, it was a film when it came out originally back in the day, I found on big box VHS, and I watched all the time. When we came back to do this episode and watch it this week, it was like I remembered everything. It put such a huge smile on my face to watch this movie. So to get to this episode and to talk with you guys about this, I'm excited. I'm super excited. So let's stop the pleasantries, even though I do enjoy this conversation about recollecting about awkward email exchanges and handwritten letters. But let's go ahead. The episode we're going to talk about tonight, or the movie we're going to talk about tonight, is the 1989 shot on video horror comedy by Pericles Loons, Redneck Zombies.
My baby left me, and I'm so blue. My heart is aching, my brain is goo. I get drunk and wander from dawn till dawn. I am just a redneck zombie since you're gone. Well, I can't think and I can't feel, but I can drink and cuss and squeal. Oh, bitch, without you, my life's doo-doo. I'm a blue dick redneck zombie without you. I groan and cry to the guys by the stair. Then I take me a bottle and a chug that swill. My eyes glaze over, my heart aches stuff.
So, Doc, seems how this is your first shot on video episode, or your first Astro Radio Z episode, I want to pop that cherry, son.
Woo!
So, would you please tell the Astro Zombies what is the plot of Redneck Zombies?
Okay. The plot of Redneck Zombies is that there is a barrel of highly radioactive nuclear waste being driven on a completely unsecured Jeep by one soldier who is high on weed and is probably imagining a dog next to him in the car.
No, I like to think that that's actually his dog that he's talking to, the dog that's wearing the shades. Yeah. Yes. He offers the joint.
Yes.
Oh, that's legit. That's real.
The dog seems to disappear at some point, so I lose track of the dog. But in a moment of panic, as things happen, the barrel, which is weakly secured, comes bouncing out of the Jeep, rolls down a hill, and when he goes to reclaim said barrel, there is a large, comical, overweight redneck with a gun whisking him away from said barrel, which is then taken from him by a family of moonshiners. And none of them apparently can read that it says danger radioactivity on it. And they spill it in their corn squeezins, and they use it as a new still, and they make radioactive moonshine that's green, ma, from it. And everybody turns into flesh-eating creatures that bubble over and froth when you spray them with aerosol deodorant.
Yeah.
This movie is fucking bonkers.
Yes.
If you were going to sit and want to point your finger at what potentially could be the best shot on video horror film ever made, I would say this one. Hands down, from a production standpoint, it flies everywhere. The practical effects are insane. Tons of gore. There's lots of legitimate comedy. There's very little that's awkward about it. It's edited superbly, and it has a great soundtrack other than the really bad country tunes that are played in this. This movie flies by. It has crazy ass characters. Amanda, this is the first time you've ever seen this movie.
Right.
What did you think watching Redneck Zombies?
I immediately liked it. I thought it was really funny. If this was something that I would have been a part of, and I think we talked about this I made mention to this when we were talking about the burning moon. If I was a part of this, I would have been really proud of it, because it's just like the right amount of campy, and it's, like you said, legitimately funny. The characters are make sense, and the storyline is, makes sense for what it is, and I just really liked it. I thought it was really good. I had a lot of fun with it.
Mark, out of everything you've seen shot on video wise, do you think Redneck Zombies is pretty much at the top of that list?
Oh yeah, hands down. This is one of the ones that I knew, I watched as Doc and I talked. I remember watching this before it was actually Trauma. And it's interesting that it also is Full Moon Pictures and for this film. But yeah, it is a real film, but at the same time, they're having fun with it. You're right. Everything you said, that the writing on it, the editing, the narrative stays coherent through this film. As batshit crazy as it is, on the whole, the narrative stays straight. Even when you get all these, because there's a lot of characters in here, including our hiking group, which end up being the zombie fodder, who are great cast of characters as well. Everybody in here, you've got a group of people who are behind this project. They know what this project is. They're having fun with it, but there is talent here for what it is. It is a very surprising, I think, for a lot of people, I think, who may watch this going, wow, outside of it being shot on video, this is actually pretty doggone solid of a film in almost all aspects. And yeah, the practical effects in here are crazy.
Insane amount of practical effects in here. Doc, what stands out most to you about Redneck Zombies?
A lot of it is so funny at times. Like you said, so deliberately funny. It's not the oops, it's so bad it's good type funny. Mm-hmm. They're going back and referencing Stooges. They're referencing very obvious bits of American humor. There's some vibes that almost feel like Monty Python to me. And at the same time, right after that, there will be this incredibly creepy moment or scary sometimes. And it manages to go from one to the next without feeling like the tone is off.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that. That's one thing that struck me this time watching again, and I've always felt that way, is that this movie, while very kinetic and very deliberately funny, it turns on a dime to some of the downright most black, dark, creepy sections I've ever seen in movies. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that the video stock that it's shot on I think it adds a little bit to that creepy factor. There's something about it that is just a little grungy, a little off, a little soft. And that soundtrack, the
soundtrack, yes.
Yeah, that organ music that's played in there adds to that. And there's a lot of overdubbing that's really super creepy for like the Tobacco Man and some of the other stuff.
That dude.
So what did you think of the character, the Tobacco Man?
They creep me out.
Hi, Mr. Tobacco Man. Hi, Mr. Tobacco Man. Mr. Tobacco Man.
I've been waiting for you, boys. I've been waiting. What'll be today, boys? I got dip for the gum and snuff for the nose. I got roll your owns and smokes and a newfangled machine that rolls them for you. Even got pellets that taste like licorice. Don't have to spit them out. Just let it dissolve. Oh, they're good for young ones just like you. What'll it be, boys?
Dip, dip. We want dip and thanks for Daddy's fun.
All right, boys. Here's your dip. And here's a plate for your daddy's pot.
He was like the ice cream man, but for hillbillies.
The hillbillies get excited while they're making their still. All of a sudden, they hear a bunch of
weird, like banging. It almost sounded like pots and pans.
Yes, he's banging on pots and pans,
or it's a jewel harp or something. Yeah.
No, he's banging on a frying pan.
Okay.
Yeah. He's got a frying pan in his cab of his truck, and he's banging on it like the ice cream man has music playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and he looks like the Elephant Man.
Yeah,
he does.
Oh, I thought he looked like he has a little, like a burlap sack over his head with eyes.
That's the Elephant Man.
That's the Elephant Man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's deliberate that he's the Elephant Man, because you can see just through the eye hole as well that he has been deformed in some way, and of course he's talking funny as well. They've got this really creepy voice for him, and I loved that the little speech he gives to them in the beginning when they first meet him. The whole I've got dip for gum and snuff for the nose. Roll your own smokes and a newfangled machine that rolls them for you.
Yeah.
That's the same actor that plays the paw in the Hillbillies.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. They said I had a chance to do the commentary this time, and they're like, yeah, the only way he would take it is if he got to play both.
Are you serious? Why is that? Did they ever say why?
He loved it. After reading the script, he's like, dude, I want to do that. I want to be that guy too.
It is downright one of the weirdest characters you're ever going to see. It's so random.
That was a Greek chorus they used it as. Yeah.
What's that?
He said he kind of used it as a Greek chorus to set up this weird vibe to explain what was happening without actually saying anything.
Totally. I think it sets the tone so much for what's going to come after, is that you have this really light, fluffy, really fast paced comedy that all of a sudden gets halted dead in its tracks with this David Lynch style, surreal, weird, dark sequence about some idiot out in the middle of nowhere in a cornfield giving hick. Well, they're not even kids. They're like 25, 30 years old dudes. Tobacco like he's an ice cream man. And he looks like the fucking Elephant Man. It's the weirdest fucking shit you'll ever see. And it's not the first movie reference that they'll make in this movie. There's a whole scene later in the movie that is a direct riff of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep, the guy, after Ellie Mae, who's one of the kids of these rednecks, goes to drop off all of the moonshine.
Billy Bob, you mean?
No, Ellie Mae.
Ellie Mae. Ellie Mae, Dad.
Paul's the only one that gets that wrong. Did you ever notice that? He's the only one that questions it. Everybody else goes, hi, Ellie Mae, how's it going? They totally accept that character. It's great.
You're weird, boy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ellie Mae. Well, seems how before we get to this scene, Ellie Mae is one of the 3 kids of the redneck group that make this moonshine, and I think the hint is that he's supposed to be transgendered, but he definitely is a burly bear of a man.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And there's multiple sequences in which he's all he's wearing is a vest over top of a big belly and a hairy chest, and he's got a full beard, and he's not even remotely looks feminine, but he acts feminine the entire time. And there's a scene where he walks into, he's delivering all this moonshine, this green moonshine. He walks into this guy's house where these 2 dudes are watching a girl rub her tits. I like movies. And they're like, hey, why don't you come watch them knockers with us? And he's like, nope, I got my own. Amazing characters. But there's, to get back to the riffs off of other movies, there's a sequence in which Ellie Mae picks up a hitchhiker who shaves people. And that's his whole thing. Yeah. And the whole thing is a riff on the hitchhiker from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Mark, did you notice any other direct nods to other movies?
Oh yeah, when you get the one where the hiker, the guide, after when in the climactic battle where they're fighting all the redneck zombies, the hikers are, and he gets knocked down and he gets his torso ripped away. That felt directly out of, I think it was Day of the Dead.
Yes.
That you get that scene in there, so you have that. Let's see what, man, there's a number of other references in here. I think I put them down in some notes, but that was one of them that really stood out to me was that one when he pulled them apart, and it was like, oh, that's right out of Day of the Dead. I mean, straight out of it. And then, yeah, you get so many great characters and moments in here. But what's great about it is these references aren't put in here. I hate to say it, like more modern, quote unquote, films like this that kind of seem blatantly like, oh, look what we're doing. They work these in there subtly enough to where if you know the film, you're going to catch the reference. But if you don't know the film, you're still going to enjoy the scene regardless.
Yeah, it's not like they name drop any of it.
No, they don't. I mean, you talk about weird characters. I mean, not only do we have, we've got the Tobacco Man, but let's talk about Ma, the mom of the moonshiners who carries around a little piggy with her. As a pet. I love her. She's great. We're going to go out there and give those boys what fur.
They got a full shine on. Looks like they got a new steel.
And even the minor characters, even what he's delivering, Ellie Mae is delivering these moonshine houses, and you get like the mom who puts the moonshine in the baby bottle for the kid who's standing up in the washing machine, and it's just like, what?
Well, and then later, not to spoil anything, not that you can spoil anything about Redneck Zombies, that baby turns into a zombie who smiles at camera while he's eating a finger.
I know.
That's the one. I think it was Ed's son Alex. The mom is played by Pericles' mom because she wanted to be in the film. The date is at the beginning when they're zooming in on like the asylum or whatever it is, and they're kind of ticking. They have the exact date, and then the timer is ticking.
Yes,
that's a year to the day after his son was born. They used his birthday and a birth time. That's what that is.
Oh my God. This movie, the comedy is so dead on. Unlike a lot of this kind of stuff from back in the day, the shot on video stuff, there's nothing ironic about Redneck Zombies. No. It is a legitimately written comedy.
Yeah.
And it works amazingly. Let's go to the characters, because I think if anything sticks out in this movie, it's the huge cast of crazy ass characters. Doc, if you were to pick one out of all of these characters, who's your favorite?
I think they refer to this character in the commentary as N because he's not named during the film, at all, if memory serves. He barely interacts with the rest of the cast. It's the guy drinking who gets no lines. There's one of the campers just sits there drinking constantly, and he is awesome to me. And they said the joke was that, and they said it was kind of vague, but normally the guy who has no lines is the first killed, and that's why he survives the whole film. Because they wanted to flip that on its head, and he just keeps. He gets to he almost like uses booze for spinach near the end while he's fighting off zombies because his deodorant doesn't work. It's so Popeye. It's the best. I love that guy.
That is awesome. Amanda, who's your favorite?
I liked the Ellie Mae character. I thought it was really funny. And I didn't pick it up as him being transgendered. I picked it up as him being gay, but needing to still fit into this archetype of the redneck.
See, I thought it was almost like he was a pre-op transgender. Like he thought of himself as a woman, but maybe wasn't exposed to people that actually changed.
But they got the satellite there.
See, and I got him. I put him as the people in his life being so stupid they didn't realize that he was gay and that he was really, really effeminate, and they were like so dumb because they're a bunch of rednecks.
I don't think it had anything to do with sex. I think it had to do with gender. I think he identified as a woman.
Oh,
that's why he named himself Ellie Mae, and he had all these feminine characteristics. But because this movie, the only sexualized characters in this movie are people that talk that way. Was the guy who led, who was the part of the campers, the hiker, the lead hiker, so excited to have a pond to piss in.
That guy.
He was the only dude that came across as like having any interest in sex, other than the guys obviously looking at them knockers.
Yeah,
and Bob. Because they keep walking in during stories where he's talking about something about his genitalia, it seems like.
Well, his girl, and he was trying to convince his girlfriend about. It's a great cutaway. The editing in this film is just fantastic because it's great because we cut into a discussion while they're walking. He's going, and they say 1 ounce contains more protein than.
Yes.
You know,
it tastes like a pineapple smoothie.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and that character, you're right, Wilbur is both sexualized, but I like the drunk guy too, but he's not my favorite though.
Well, who is your favorite, Mark?
It's tough to pick one because there's so many, but I got to go with Bob, the guy who's the pre-vet.
Yes.
The guy.
Oh, the guy who is basically high on LSD most of the movie.
Yeah, right. Out. I love that guy. The way he portrayed it. At one point, when the zombies first go on the attack, he cuts to this thing where he just totally, his brain shuts down and he starts going into this Wizard of Oz, little Wizard of Oz monologue, you know, just like, oh my God. And he's just playing it. It's so sincerely crazy that you can't help but love it. And then, he's on LSD when he's trying to do an autopsy because they decide, what the hell, we need to do an autopsy
on a zombie because they wanted to figure out what the hell was going on. And just like anything else in this movie, it doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to. No. It's just a ridiculous set piece for them to go off with some comedy on.
Yeah, and he's sitting there, he's dissecting this guy in front of him, but he's tripping out, so he's thinking like he's pulling a shoe out, and he's actually pulling entrails out, and everybody else is getting ill, and he's like, oh, look at this. He's flopping stuff around. I love that guy. That guy was just hilarious because he just went all in. The actor he just sold that so sincerely that I was laughing. I was just rolling.
There's some really funny shit with that character. My character has always been Tyrone Robinson, the soldier.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
As soon as I said Ellie Mae, I actually, while everybody was talking, I recollected. And
from the first time I saw this movie, every single time the soldier gets on screen, I am fucking dying. From the first scene where he's talking to that dog, to asking the dog if he wants a hit of this joint, to that awkward scene where he loses the barrel of the chemical nuclear warfare waste, and his sergeant is screaming in his face, and then the scene where he's got to escort one of his military buddies, and then the overtly gay military guy out there
who he only says "fuck you" to.
Well, which was though
there's one time he says something else.
Oh, that's true.
Oh yeah,
he says,
there
"Fuck
is.
you still."
Fuck you still. It's funny, but now years later, seeing that, it is kind of cringy.
Yeah,
it's a little insensitive, but back in the time that this was made, that was a typical kind of interaction, and that was comedy. And if you lighten up a little bit about it, I suppose you can find a lot of hilarity in that. But now, in our world, that those jokes don't fly anymore.
Yeah.
But
there aren't many of them.
There aren't many of them, but that is one of the most overt ones in that.
Yeah.
Because this is a fairly like race neutral movie. There's no jokes. It's very much a multiracial film. There's many different races of people in this movie, and none of them are played for laughs. Right. They're all equally respectable, or at least shown equal respect in this film. But my favorite scene with Tyrone Robinson has got to be when he's with the gay military guy and his other bud. Then they get out there and they see the shaver, who's a zombie, out in the middle of the field. They get out and it's like, oh, this guy looks like he needs help. And he's like, oh, come over here. We're going to help you. And then they see that he looks like he's all fucked up and he's a zombie. No, stop. Please stay there. No, don't move anymore.
Stop. Freeze. Fini, motherfucker. That's fridge.
That's the great. It's a total overdub, but it's one of the funniest fucking pops in this whole movie. Every time I see that, I die. I absolutely die. So Tyrone Robinson, definitely one of the quality characters in this flick. Now, we talked a little bit about the gore, and we've always talked about on the Shot on Video episodes that the gore was usually the selling point of these movies. This movie doesn't just have gore. It is gross gore, gratuitous, that goes on forever. What did you think of all of the gore that was in this flick, Amanda?
Oh, it didn't bother me. I thought it was fine. I thought some of it was really funny where, they're like tearing somebody in half or whatever, and it just shows everybody's fingers at his gut when they're just kind of like mashing around blood. They're not really doing anything, but then they cut back and he's torn in half, and they're picking up, probably pig intestines or whatever it was.
I don't even think it's probably just latex covered in fake blood or something.
No, a lot of that was pig intestines.
Oh, was it so?
Yeah.
And that just cracked me up. I liked it. I thought it was really funny. And it goes back to me recognizing what this is, that these are like just a bunch of people who shot this on video. And I think that they clearly had talent. They clearly were looking to have fun and pulled it off nicely.
Well, I think these were people that legitimately knew what they were doing. This wasn't some fly by night, run by the seat of your pants production. This was extremely well done. Doc, when it comes to the practical effects in this movie, what do you think?
They look really good. In the commentary, they point to, I think it's Jethro early on. They said that guy was just there's that section early on where he's just really ripping and flinging bits and pieces of person behind him and everything. Apparently, those were frozen chitlins that had not defrosted completely. And that's why he could rip into them and they would just go flying. So, they'd go, I guess, to the grocery store and pick up some things. And some people would interact with them differently. He said, like some of the zombies would be like, sure, there's that one dude who's just like, yeah, give me a pancreas. And he's just, just slime and stuff all over his face. So they balance out the actual, intestinal bits with some very good effects and some very well placed and well timed things so that it builds the illusion a lot of time. They're as I've watched it now, obviously, sometimes over the years. I can see where the gaps are to cover certain things. Like even Amanda said, yeah, you can see the hands go in there and then all of a sudden the guy's a half. Yeah, but it sells the moment and you know what's going on and it reads. And that's important. The fact that all this stuff reads very well. They'll point out, yeah, we left that here, that's here. Some of that's intentional, some of it's not. But by and large, at a glance, most of them look pretty good. Some of the background zombies are just a little light makeup, but a lot of them look very, very good. And there's just so much grossness, and this is great.
Yeah, I think once you get to the zombies, you're already so invested in this movie that when you see the zombies that literally look like they dipped 2 fingers into black paint and rubbed them across their eyes, you don't care anymore.
No, it's true.
It's really late in the works in this movie when that stuff happens. Mark, your thoughts?
Oh, I love the practical effects in here. I mean, for especially for when it was made, what it is, and they're actually pretty doggone impressive. I mean, there's the one scene where our big boy, now turned into a zombie, confronts your favorite soldier, and he squeezes his eyes. And yeah, it's cut away before the eyes actually pop out. But before that, you actually got blood coming out of, over both his thumbs. And it looks pretty doggone painful. I'm like, wow, that's actually pretty impressive, and yeah, we mentioned the guy getting torn apart before, and I think what helps with it just being so gory and just so visceral is the fact that everyone in this film, just about except for our hikers, are filthy.
Oh, just absolutely filthy.
No one in the hillbilly area is taking a shower, from the kids who sneaked the dad's moonshine. They got dirt on their faces, to just about everyone except the hikers. They're already filthy. So you add this feeling of grime before you actually get your first set of gore. So by the time you get your set of gore in already this grimy setting, it just has such a visceral, standout feel that you're just like, oh my God, and then a couple times they love eating eyeballs in this film. There's at least, I think, 2 or 3 occasions where they pop the eyeball out and then they shove it in their mouth. But yeah, practical effects are just awesome in this film. Totally disgustingly awesome.
I think it also helps that the acting in this movie across the board is spot on. Everyone in this movie goes for it. Nobody holds back. Even the characters that obviously, like that little baby and some of the kids that look straight into camera, it doesn't matter. It's still cute. It reads, and it's played the right way in editing, to where the director knows what's happening and he uses it to his advantage. So there's the gore. I can't stress enough, and we'll probably talk about this later with a different movie we're going to talk about later in the episode. I can't stress enough how when attention is made towards not only getting a good cast, but set design, proper makeup effects, and editing and sound design, when this all comes together and you're able to really harness that and use it to its maximum effect, how effective it is. In Redneck Zombies, beyond anything, it is so meticulously edited that the scenes that show with some of the makeup effects and maybe some of the performances, they don't linger at all. So it just plays so perfectly. And that's what I react to mostly, is the fact that this movie knows how to manipulate its audience into staying with it the entire time. It's to this day, I've been watching this movie now we're almost going on 30 years.
Yeah, 89 it came out.
That we've been watching this movie, and it still works for me just as good as it did. Some characters don't pop as much for me. Some jokes don't pop as much for me as they used to, but other ones crept in and took their place. It's still amazing to me, this movie.
Derrick was dying when we were watching it. He was losing his mind. We put it on in bed a couple nights ago, and I was exhausted, so I was trying really hard to stay awake while we were watching it. And at one point I started drifting off, and I was woken up, startled awake by Derrick just losing his mind laughing at something. And then we finished watching it earlier today together, and same thing. You know, I'm like chuckling because I appreciate the film and I like it, and there's funny parts of it. And to me, what was fun watching it was watching Derrick's reaction, because it's obvious that you're recalling the history that you have with this movie while you're watching it, and that's pretty cute. It's really fun.
Yeah, I think all of us, probably Mark and Doc, at the same time, when we've seen this movie so many times now that it's just like, if you haven't seen it in a while, it's almost like you're going back in time and reliving that first time you watched it. Because there's few comedies that I can watch over and over and over again that still work. And Redneck Zombies 100% still works for me on almost every level. Doc?
Totally. Even to the point where today it was paying off with jokes that apparently I just never really got before, or I missed, or they have like the triple stooge slap and things that are more obvious and things like that. It wasn't until today it dawned on me that the fact that deodorant kills rednecks is the joke.
It's brilliant. It's
so brilliant. Subtle. It's just like, okay, they had a scientific explanation. I took it. I moved up. Wait a minute. This is an Andy Kaufman routine now. Hang on. He's trying to get deep. There's just so much that feeds together. It's just the one moment where you actually see people react, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure they just left that in, because it's after right when they get to the campsite and Bob walks back over to the two guys. He's like, so where do you think's a good place to take a shit? And I'm like, that didn't look like the standard joke type reaction. They're just like, because they, again, that guy, they said in the commentary, that was a guy that they'd known for a while. He'd never done any drugs. He didn't swear or anything like that. So this character was not him at all. And everybody, they were just having a blast getting him to do that. Everybody, they said, oh, this is the hitchhiker, actor friend of ours, blah, blah, blah. We had him do this. It turns out he'd never seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre before. That performance is good because he was listening to his direction. He didn't have the movie to reference. That's how good this movie is at times. That just people were that invested in it and went all the way with it to make it the best thing they could make it. I think the wiki said it was like $10,000 back in the day. That's like nothing.
It's like nothing.
Yeah.
They made magic for $10,000.
Absolutely. I think one of the most impressive things, like we said before, was the fact that it literally changes tone on a dime and doesn't take you out of this movie.
It's bizarre how it manages to do that, and it works. I mean, the sequence in the freelance butcher shop is incredibly eerie, and it doesn't pay off really. It's just a creepy moment. It's not like they go, here's what's happening with this. It just happens.
No, because you don't know exactly what's going on. I mean, when Ellie Mae comes in, the music changes. All you see is a girl that's crying, tied up and duct taped to a chair, and this guy leering at her, laughing while they're watching videos of little chicks being slaughtered. And this guy walks in, just sharpening a blade. It is literally so pitch black that right before it, it's hilarity, and it goes to this scene where all of a sudden you're like, I'm really fucking uncomfortable right now.
Yeah.
Like this, I don't know where this is going. Mark, did you like that about this movie?
Oh, yeah, I love that about this movie. And what I love it, as we've mentioned before, is that it's rather seamless and it's not jarring. You're right, Derrick, meticulous. They put this together with a lot of meticulous care to make sure that everything hit just right and edited just right so that it could change tone on the dime, but it felt natural. And at most points, you didn't even realize it. The reason that I think that freelance butcher scene works is because we've seen Ellie Mae already drop off Shine at a couple of houses where there were some odd characters going on. So you're like, oh, okay. And then he walks into this house and it's just dark as shit scene. And then you're just like, whoa, but he's been visiting houses all along. So it's not like this is just some random crazy, I mean, the way it flows is great. And yeah, there's a humorous part and then it gets dark as hell. And then we go back to humor and, they use some jokes in here, but the jokes never get overused. Like we actually get a break in the fourth wall for just a split second.
Yep.
And it was used perfectly and they don't do it again. And it was brilliant because they didn't do it again. It was used once and we moved on. And I loved that. And so, yeah, with this, the Freelance Butcher, this is the craziest house Ellie Mae shows up in. It's the darkest set that he shows up in. And that's the only dark set that Ellie Mae actually visits from then on. So that's why it works. It's not like every house he's going to has crazy guys kidnapping people or slaughtering people. This is the only house. And I think that works because they get their shtick and that's it. They don't overuse anything in this film. They use it just the right amount. And I think that's what helps make it work is that they don't overuse any of it.
And by that point, too, we're invested in the Ellie Mae character to some degree. Mm-hmm. So that character's uncomfortability in that moment helps feed our reaction. So we go, wait, this isn't normal even from what Ellie Mae is used to. We should be uncomfortable because we're uncomfortable.
The fact that he is literally our voice in that scene is hilarious.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. That's part of what makes it work so well.
Mm-hmm. The points that this movie gets really dark and really effective as a horror film come out of nowhere, like you guys said. I think other than obviously we had said the Tobacco Man scene, that butcher shop scene, and then I think one of the other most effective horror sequence is the first time we see one of the rednecks, that scene where you said where the zombie is ripping apart that one body.
Yes.
The tone of the music and how absolutely visceral that is very unexpected up until that point in the film. Every time I see that, it's just like, wow, this is really fucking violent. Like it's angry. It's angry violent.
Yeah.
And it's not something you expect from the movie because up until that point, it's been very lighthearted. It's been very goofy. I mean, we have scenes of stupid people talking about going golfing in an insane asylum and, guys trying to hand off joints to dogs and all this.
Having a pond to piss in and all that jazz.
Yeah. And the recurring jokes are all really light. Mm-hmm. All really light stuff, like the dude that drinks constantly. Instead of pulling out weapons to fight the zombies, he pulls out another bottle of gin or vodka to drink and down, and a pond to piss in, and the fuck you joke that
scene where all the zombies are coming out of the woods, and the one guy goes, "Well, haven't you seen Deliverance?" And then he goes running over to him.
And he waves at them. That's the best part. He waves like hi, and they all wave hi, and then they eat him.
Back.
I love that.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Because they're not traditional zombies in that way. And I think some people get hung up on that because they're like, well, they're not really undead and they're reacting like this and blah, blah. Well, they're mutated by radioactive shine. They're not really the undead walking the earth. This
is a parody.
It's don't take it too seriously, man.
Yeah.
Some people do.
I don't know how people could take something like Redneck Zombies. I mean, look at the title.
Any shot on video is super serious.
I don't agree with that.
Oh, is that so? Well, maybe my exposure to shot on video films has been those that are just kind of within the horror comedy genre.
Well, I think a lot of them that are remembered, or at least to the mass culture that know of these, a lot of them are the horror comedy because you kind of can forgive the cheap aspects of the production and the look, because if a comedy pops and you're laughing at it, you'll forgive just about anything.
Yeah.
With a film, where if it's a serious film, the last thing you want to see is something that looks like it was shot in your mom's backyard.
Right.
So that's why I think a lot of the serious ones, most people don't talk about those or don't consider them good because they would rather watch something that looks like a Hollywood film, something that looks super professional, where those of us that like, exploitation films can see past the shortcomings of the production and see what's going on there. So I always think shot on video films, the vast majority of them that everybody remember are always the comedies.
Yeah.
The horror comedies.
That makes sense.
So, but there's a lot of them out there that are serious that work. Like The Burning Moon is definitely not a comedy.
No.
But that pops because of the violence.
Yes. And it's done very well. The violence in that film is done really well.
I think the violence in the Redneck Zombies is better.
Yeah.
Is that so? I think I would disagree. I think I said to you out loud while we were watching The Burning Moon, oh my God, it really looks like this guy got cut. Or, oh my gosh, it really looks like they're fighting. I didn't feel that with this.
Why? Was it because of the comedy that it took you out of it?
Probably. Yeah. Like it's intentional. The movie is supposed to feel funny and light. And so it's hard for me sometimes to slip and fall back into this like authentic gore really easily between them.
I think some of the gore in this I like better than the stuff in The Burning Moon. I really do. Like Ferd Mertz, who is kind of like the villain of this movie. There's so many different layers to this movie with all the characters, but Ferd Mertz is this big redneck who is a complete dildo the entire movie. He is in direct competition with the core group of rednecks that make The Shine, and he eventually gets turned into a zombie, and his makeup to me is like some of the creepiest looking makeup in this movie.
Is he the really big heavyset guy in the overall?
Yeah, that has FM painted on his overall, so let you know that his name's Ferd Mertz.
Yeah.
Hope I don't go blind.
Yeah, he wants to rape just a pair of legs that have been torn off of a body.
Oh, they said he was so uncomfortable with that sequence, which makes me happy, to be honest. He ad-libbed, I guess, a lot of his stuff, which you could tell.
Oh, totally, you could tell.
He wrestles a tree at one point. Remember where he kind of flops it? He's like flailing around with that little tree when he's going to the still to find it. Boom. It pops up like nothing happened. Oh, man. That dude was crazy.
My God, he's a good character. But the makeup effects, even though some of the zombies look bad, but some of it is just so downright creepy because of the tone and the way it's shot and the lighting and the blood that's used. It just looks... I think it affects me far more than anything in The Burning Moon.
Wow.
The farmhouse scene in particular,
oh man,
where she first comes in and you've got what looks like an exploded baby pig on the floor, and then she's looking at all of them as they're munching on each other and such. And what I love about that scene is, I know it's a simple thing, but I did not expect it from a film like this. When she walks in there, she doesn't react right away. So we go to a shot outside of the house, and it's a close-up, then a medium, then an extreme wide, and it's silent for a minute, and then you hear her scream in the background. And just the way that was done, I did not expect that from a film like this. So I was like,
that is such a perfect shot.
It was such a fantastic shot. But just before that, when she's looking around and it's kind of blurry, all that stuff in there was just so disgusting. And
so got Ellie Mae torn to shreds on that table is literally some of the grossest stuff in this movie.
But it's so well done, but it is so gross. That whole house is just gross by that point. And it's just like, oh my God.
It's Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Evil Dead kind of in that little room. And they're just going as balls to the wall as they could be. Dude was stuck in that table for 10 hours, they said, trying to.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah. Poor thing.
They're like, oh, this won't take long. Once you get in the, and they're like, yeah, they said, because there's like, lights outside the window, like right after that finishes. She goes, those were lights that's not sunlight. Those were lights that we shone inside that cabin because it was like midnight when we finally got done with it.
God.
I loved the fact that it looked really dark in that room.
Yeah, it's crazy. It just ugh.
And the mom gets, the girl is starting to fight back, and she knocks the mom back into the seat, and the board comes down.
It's a little comedic moment. Yeah.
It's a little comedic moment, but then she's sitting there. But then the mom wakes up, and as she comes up, she pulls this machete out. I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah. Can we back up just a second outside of the fun stuff? And can I ask you all a question? And this is something that's bothered me ever since I first started watching Redneck Zombies.
Oh my God. Okay.
Do any of you hate the fact that the Lisa character is the final girl in this movie? I've hated that character ever since I've watched this movie. I think she's annoying. I think she's crass.
Dopey.
She's dopey. And she just like, I don't want to root for her. She's an asshole.
I can see that. But that's, I think, part of why she works as the final character, because you don't want her to make that. But she makes that turn where she turns into survival mode.
But I don't think...
You don't have to be sympathetic towards her, but she goes badass. But yeah, no, I could see that. Yeah.
I would have rather seen the Teresa character personally.
I would have rather seen Bob.
Or Bob. Yeah.
Yeah. But the plus side, she is the one that's trying to be the most sensible, even though she's a jerk. So she does have a lot of the qualities that are there. She's just not so personable that you fall, that you're like, yes, you throw your support behind her type person.
Yeah.
But she's the one that's like, hey, knock off the fighting. Hey, this is let's listen to him because he's smart. Or, let's do this. She's trying to keep the group together up until the point where things just explode. But you can see why she's that character to some degree, but I can understand why you would dislike her, certainly.
Oh,
there was a bunch of scenes with Lisa that I disliked where she's like witnessing all this violence and she's just sitting against a tree screaming, "Get up!"
The one dude that wants to bone her so hard runs over, saves her, and then
she freezes up.
And she just like backs up and runs away basically and watches him get eaten.
Rude.
Yeah. She goes into shock at that point, presumably, but she's
just a total piece of shit.
That's arguable. I would not dispute that. I will say that in a heartbeat. Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes is when that one character is the drinking dude kind of like ditches him and throws him to the zombies, and so he puts his arms out and pretends to be a zombie.
Bob, yeah,
and Bob and like elbows over. I wanted Bob to hold out till the end and be the final character, and then he gets found out because he barfs.
Yes. I love the one zombie head that kind of raises up to go, wait a minute, what's going on over there?
Wait, we don't
that
puke.
Is gold.
We don't puke, but he did. He's not one of us.
Eat him.
Eat him. Yeah.
He gets ripped apart pretty harshly because I think they kept using the shirt to disguise a lot. But oh man, that one hurts for some reason more than some of the other ones. I don't know why.
So amazing that all that stuff. But the Achilles heel of this movie for me, if anything, is that fucking Lisa character and the horrible country tunes that have Redneck Zombies as like the lyrics in this movie, like the title. Well, it's just like after everything else is so good in this movie that those points just really
kind of
stick
maybe
out.
Use it once and move on.
Yeah. I didn't dig it, but that Lisa character has always rubbed me the wrong way. Always. The whole time I'm like, oh, that fucking Lisa. Whole time. So, let's go ahead. And I don't think there's a whole lot more we can go on about Redneck Zombies. I think people are very aware that we all love this movie.
Oh, yes.
Mark, you got any final thoughts or anything that we have left out that you'd like to talk about?
Not really. No, we've covered it well with this movie, but I would just say if you're looking, if you're looking for a good shot on video film that's fun and just everything that you really would like from a film like this, it's Redneck Zombies, even with the country music, which I think may have been their little nod to, say, 2000 Maniacs. I
could see that.
In a way, why they have that in there, I would easily say that's probably a little nod to the 2000 Maniacs. But yeah, there's references in here that it's one of those films that's a shot on video film where it wasn't just people going, oh, hey, we can make, there's a lot of great stuff in here, especially for a horror fan, and especially for when it came out. I love this movie. This movie's just so much damn fun.
I couldn't agree with you more. Doc, any final thoughts or anything you wanted to bring to the group that we hadn't talked about you wanted to cover?
I think Mark made a good point at the end. It feels very much like a Herschel Gordon Lewis film in a lot of ways to me. And it's a period of its time, but at the same time, a lot of the stuff that's of that time doesn't really wear on it. There's a lot of stuff that's still very entertaining now. And go watch it. Watch it a lot.
It's a hell of a charming movie.
Damn right. Fuck yeah. Fuck you,
America. Fuck yeah. There we go. Anyway, Amanda, final thoughts or anything you wanted to talk about that we left out?
No, not really. I liked it, and I think I appreciate it because I think like most shot on video films, I probably would be annoyed with like, this is stupid and I hate it. But because it's a mix of comedy and horror, like you said, it's easy to look past any of the production value shortcomings, which I don't think there really are a lot, frankly.
No, I don't think so either.
They do a phenomenal job. But yeah, so no, I liked it. 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up, 2 thumbs way up.
Yeah.
And a hard boner. That's a seal of approval. Astro Radio Z, seal of boner approval.
It's a tight butthole. It's tight butthole.
It's tight butthole, as we would say in the biz. It's quality house stuff. I honestly, if any of you that are out there listening, I know all the old timers that are listening to this, they've already seen this fucking movie. It's part of their staple, their diet, their horror movie diet. But if any of you out there haven't seen Redneck Zombies, what are you doing listening to this episode anymore? Get out there, rent Redneck Zombies. Literally, hands down, my favorite shot on video horror film of all time. It is so fun. The hour and a half running time flies by. And there's very few movies of this ilk that I can say that for. You don't feel this, especially stuff shot on video. There's at some point it drags for you just because of the production value. And sometimes, the lighting isn't great or the sound isn't great or whatever. Not one point in this movie does it drag. So tight butthole seal of approval, Astro Radio Z. Go check this. I don't know. That's a problematic score. I don't know if I like that as a score.
No, don't you? That's from the show Workaholic.
Yes, yeah, I know what that's from, right. But I don't know if I want to use that as a real score on Astro Radio.
It's here. I'm using it. It's here.
How do you feel about using tight butthole, Mark, as a rating on this show?
My butthole's been tight for many years, so
that's not what Doc told me. Well, I think we can all agree that Redneck Zombies is one of the greatest shot-on-video horror films of all time, so I don't know if we really have much more to talk about it. So we're going to move on from Redneck Zombies, and we're going to move on to the portion of the show that I know you all fucking love so much. The portion of the show where my guests shamelessly shill the fuck out of you, Mark the Movie Man. Shill your ass off.
SpecialMarkProductions.com is where you can stop, where you'll find most of the links to stuff that I work on, including the Horror Thursdays I do for We Live Entertainment. You'll see the recent reviews I've done for The Final Cut, which I recently did one for the newest Baywatch film, which seems to be a rather hit. And
I like the fact that there's some pussy in that video.
There is a lot of it. There's a lot of it in that film, in that review. I'm waiting for YouTube to take it down with that so much in there. But and also the Spoiler Room podcast, which Derrick and Doc both have been on. There's archive episodes as well as newest episodes there. You can find me occasionally on the Galactic Netcasts as the Movie Man's Movie Minute. Surprisingly, I actually talk about a movie for only about a minute, which, trust me, is a challenge. And you can also catch me on the Twitters at Special Mark Pro.
And Mr. Doc, you are constantly working on stuff all over the place. Do you have anything that you want to shill to my audience?
Certainly. I am very privileged to be part of the Shakespeare Raw group that is of the Boozy Bar Productions. Our next performance is June 12th through 14th at Best Place, 901 West Juneau Avenue in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We're going to do Comedy of Errors. The whole concept is at the beginning of the night, all the performers come out on stage, pick a name out of a hat, and then we go get scripts and we try and perform that Shakespearean play in front of whoever shows up for it. And it's a good time, and it's silly, and it's fun, and it's acting, and it's improv, and it's reading, and it's all sorts of things. And if you can't make that, go to Boozy Bar Productions on Facebook, like the Facebook page. There's videos that we post. If you want to follow some of the ridiculous things that I get up to, there's Professor Thomas Tennant on Facebook, because occasionally I remember I'm doing things and I post them there.
That's how I feel about Astro Radio Z sometimes, is that I forget to actually promote and post the stuff.
Yep. Oh, crap, I was in Oshkosh yesterday. Sorry. That sort of thing happens occasionally.
As we always, my bud John Pata and I always tease our friend Jill Six about, is this a snappertunity? Snapping going to Madison at the end of June. What is that? I don't know what I'm doing yet. Stuff like that. It's true. Oh boy. Well, thank you, Doc, for coming on. And as always, Mark the Movie Man, it's always a pleasure. Our next shot on video horror film we're going to be covering here on Astro Radio Z is the week of the 12th. We're going to be covering the Truth or Dare franchise by Tim Ritter. Classic. This is bread and butter shot on video stuff. Can't wait. I know Mark hasn't seen any of this, correct?
Correct.
Oh boy. I can't wait for this. This is some of my favorite stuff of all time. So we're going to be talking about that, but even bigger, this episode was episode 99, folks. So next week, you are going to be receiving episode 100 of Astro Radio Z. That fucking blows my fucking mind. The fact that I did 100 of anything is a major accomplishment in my life. I know Mark's like, whatever, I did that 2 years ago.
I am not.
What the fuck does that matter?
I am not.
But for next week, we are going to, for the 100th episode of Astro Radio Z, I'm going to be doing the first open commentary episode, not for the Patreons, but for Astro Radio Z. And I think I'm only going to save it for every 100 episodes. If I even do another 100 episodes, because in that time at some point I'm going to have to do more witchcraft films, and I'm hoping. And I already exclaimed how I'd rather have a heart attack than watch any more of those movies.
Oh, and the Puppet Master.
Yeah, and there'll be more of that. Oh, I know. We already know there's going to be another one.
I'm sure Scott Davis is starting a Kickstarter for another Vice Academy movie. God bless him.
I'm crying inside. But anyways, so we're going to be doing a commentary track for Ed Wood's Orgy of the Dead.
Yeah.
So please, if any of you out there are interested, I'm putting a cattle call out there for listeners and former guests alike. Anybody that wants to come on, this is going to be a gang orgy fuck party for Orgy of the Dead here on Astro Radio Z. We'll have a screening on Rabbit, and we'll sit and record the ridiculousness, because we did a screening of it on Rabbit a while back, I believe for 31 Days of Horror last year, and it was just a blast. We had just a great time with it, and it is seriously one of my favorite movies of all time. It's one of the shittiest movies of all time, but it's also one of my favorite movies of all time. So that's why we're doing it for episode 100, which is coming at you next week, Astro Zombies. So the fact that we're having episode 100, I thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank any of you who has spent any time listening to this shitty, stupid little show. So until then, please stay away from the green moonshine. Stay away from it. Don't drink it. Just put it down.
It's party time.
Colombian, Jamaican, Simp.
Only the best. New Jersey.
You can find Astro Radio Z on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play, YouTube, and anywhere podcasts are found. Please help us by subscribing, rating the show, and giving us a review. It helps us get the show out to more listeners. Also, if you would like to hear more of the show and be a more active participant, join the Astro Radio Z Facebook group and page, and join the Patreon. For only $1 a month, you get bonus episodes. Thank you for listening. See you next week, Astro Zombies.
I don't know, but I think we're on our own.
No!